Thank you very much, Yami. Thank you for inviting me to speak in this meeting. It's so amazing. Yeah, to be here, it's really an honor. My name is KATHRYN. I'm a compulsive eater and bulimic. I weigh and measure 3 meals a day from the GreySheet. I write them down. I commit them to my sponsor. I don't eat in between my meals, no matter what. And I eat my meals, no matter what. And abstinence is the most important action I do every day. What it takes to stay abstinent, no matter what, I will explain a little bit later. First, I would like to tell you a little bit about my eating career. So in GreySheet, there is a solution for many forms of eating disorder. So not everybody who is coming to GreySheet is overweight or morbidly obese. For me, it was, I came in and I was on the border from normal weight to being overweight, slightly overweight. And that has to do with the fact that I'm a bulimic and the many ways that I try to manage my weight. As long as I can remember, I have been obsessed with my body, the way that I look, how much I weigh, and I always compared myself to other women and what they looked like. And in my mind, I always looked worse or fatter or not trained enough or whatever. I had a whole obsession with my body. I remember as a child that I was not overeating on everything. So I think I craved for sweets pretty early on. And I have a weakness for starchy, fatty, and salty food. And that's what I went for. When my mother made a certain food, sometimes I would get up at night, sneak it through the kitchen, steal some from the food and try to put it in the bowl as if nothing had been taken out to make sure nobody saw what I did. But I remember comments from my relatives, and they made fun at every birthday party that this was my favorite food and to make an extra big portion so that I would have enough of it. Yeah, my parents were very conscious of their bodies as well. My father was an athlete. Funny enough that nowadays he's morbidly obese. He has had hip replacements. He's alcoholic. And my mother has been anorexic and bulimic. And so I have this disease in my family as well. It is a family disease often. I don't know if it's always the case, but often it is. And there have been, on my father's side of the family, heart attacks, strokes, diabetes. And as I said, on my mother's side of the family, there was bulimia, anorexia, and also trying to control the weight in whatever way possible. So I started my first diet, I think when I was 13, and I was never disciplined enough to go through a diet. I hated it. I just didn't know what to do, how much to eat and what to eat. I tried the craziest diet full of sugar sometimes, and just to feel no hunger, to feel satisfied throughout the day. And nothing worked. The yo-yo effect, everybody knows it. As soon as you come off a diet, you put on the double amount of weight. And but I did a lot of exercise when I was younger and some aerobic courses and stuff like that. And I somehow managed my weight. And when I was about 20 years old, I was studying and I met a man I fell in love with, and it became a very toxic relationship, very unhealthy. I started eating over the pain. And then I started to gain weight. And at some point, my body image, the vanity, this man, and everything, it just came together, and it was really a very toxic combination. And I started throwing up my food. The purging began because I needed a strategy to get rid of my food and to stay in shape. That's what I thought would help. It did not help. I also started drinking alcohol massively at that time, and I used everything to numb out the pain. I smoked. That got rid of some weight sometimes, but I didn't like smoking. And as soon as I gave up smoking, I gained back all the weight, of course. I started diets where I would eat only one group of foods and to leave out carbohydrates or sugars, and I would just eat protein. I felt really sick after my meals because it was very fatty. It was not good. It was not healthy. And as I said, when I was fed up with the diet, I started eating normal again. I started to reward myself, and basically I would just eat throughout the whole day. And gradually I started to put on more weight, and I became more and more depressed because of that relationship that went on for about 13 years. It was an on and off thing. We did not get married. Thank God, I must say now. I don't have any children. Yeah, I'm really sad about that. And I became very depressed, and I started a therapy at a point where I didn't want to live anymore. And in this therapy, my therapist told me that I should go to a treatment center. And so I went. And in that treatment center, they had 12-step fellowship as integrated part of that treatment center. And I learned about OA, but I never told my therapist. I never told any therapist there that I had a problem with food, that I would purge. I didn't tell anybody about this. I was just there because I'm a little bit codependent and a love addict or something like that. And but I don't have a problem with food, not me. But I saw them. I saw the people who went to other 12-step meetings for food. There was no GreySheet there. There's no GreySheet in Germany, except we have a Zoom meeting now, and I'm very grateful for that. But back then, that's 10 years ago, there was no GreySheet in Germany. So I saw people in the treatment center who went to that 12-step fellowship for food. They sat at an extra table for the meals. They had their eating structure. And I was so grateful. I didn't have to have an eating structure. I would just get second helpings at the meals. But I was very angry at them because they were allowed first when they would get their food. So they would pass me in the line with their plate, and I could just kill them with my looks because they would get the food first. And so, I mean, it was clear to me I have a problem with food, but I didn't tell anybody about that. 6 weeks later, I came out. I did everything as before the treatment center, absolute powerless over my food, over my relationships, over my life. It's completely, totally unmanageable. When I try to control it, I cannot. I have no power. And I started smoking and drinking again, just like before. I had no strategies. I didn't know how to deal with life. And I prayed a lot in that time, and I cried a lot because I was so depressed. I didn't see any light in the horizon. And I met a woman at a convention of a 12-step fellowship that has to do with my other addiction. And she told me about another 12-step program. So, and this program I joined in April 2016. And within that fellowship, I did a 12 tradition workshop in October. And at that workshop, I met the first GreySheeter I had ever seen in my life. He was giving that workshop, that traditions workshop, and he weighed and measured his food in between giving the workshop. And I thought, what is that? It was really interesting to me because I thought that he had control over his food, and he seemed very clear to me, clear-minded, in a very normal weight body, calm, serene. So I was really looking up to his recovery, and it took about another year until I Googled it. I Googled what he did. I didn't dare to ask him in person, what are you doing with your food? I didn't dare, but I asked somebody else, what is he doing? And they told me he's doing GreySheet. I said, never heard of that before. I know the other 12-step fellowship. So another year later, I Googled it and I found the YouTube channel with all the wonderful videos. And I thought, that's so interesting. I cannot imagine to weigh and measure 3 meals a day without exception. But the message, it sunk in. And I thought, if somebody can do it when they travel, if somebody can do it when they are in hospital, and they can weigh and measure their food when they are sick, maybe I should try it. Maybe it's possible. And so I looked on the website of GreySheet. That was in the end of 2017. And I looked for GreySheet in Germany. I didn't find any GreySheet in Germany. So I looked for the closest country around. That was the UK and France. And I called 2 people, one in the UK and one in France. And they told me, you will have a life beyond your dreams if you start in GreySheet. And you will have freedom from the obsession, from the compulsion to weigh myself several times a day, from the obsession with food, from the cravings. I thought that's impossible. I will never be free from cravings with food. But let's just try. And and so I tried. And the first days of abstinence were horrible. I mean, I was in a kitchen with food, a lot of food, and I didn't know where to put it because I had a tiny fridge. I didn't know where to put my food. I needed a bigger fridge. So I bought a bigger fridge, which is with a freezer department, and it has now all the nice frozen veggies and fruits in it. And then all the shopping and the chopping. I didn't know anything about the quantities of food I would be eating. I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be hungry. I saw the GreySheet and I thought, there's not so much food on there that I would like to eat. I will be hungry all the time. But it turns out it's not the case. And today I don't even eat all the things that are on the GreySheet. It has such a big variety now for me. And I still just eat a part of that, but I really, really love my food, and it's so, so tasty. The withdrawal was no fun in the beginning. I can tell you that, but like 3 months into recovery, 3 months into abstinence, the cravings disappeared. I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. And I know that it takes a different time span for everybody in this fellowship when the cravings disappear, but it will happen if you stay abstinent. And then I thought the strongest compulsion that I still had when I got abstinent was not to weigh myself every day. I wanted to see the results of it. I wanted to see if I make progress. And to just weigh myself once a month, that was such a torture for me. But I stick to it, and the weight came off so quickly. I've never experienced something like that, to the point that I was scared to lose too much weight. I had never been that weight, and before, I think the last time I had that weight was when I was 16 or 17. But then I needed to put on weight again after the weight loss was over, and that was good because food was added to my plan, and I love my food. So I stopped obsessing about food, and the only time that I think about my food now is when I go grocery shopping and I prepare my meals. I only commit food to my sponsor that I have at home. I don't commit something that I would have to go shopping for the next day. It's too risky. And I really make sure that it's the priority that I do every day. My whole brain had to rearrange around abstinent living. You know, and sometimes I would go to bed at night. My kitchen looked like a bomb had exploded in it, with all the dishes and all that stuff, you know, and my job, I couldn't prepare for my job for the next day. I was just a mess in the beginning. But somebody told me, as long as you go abstinent to bed at night, you are a miracle, and you have won this day, because you're going to bed abstinent and you're waking up abstinent. And that is really priceless to me. Yeah, and as I said, I joined in the end of 2017, and I stayed in GreySheet for about half a year, I think. And then I left because I thought I want exceptions, but we do this without exceptions. But I wanted an exception. I thought, okay, one cheat day, why not? You know, one cheat day, and or I just want to go to the restaurant, like in that other 12-step fellowship for food, where you don't have to weigh and measure in the restaurant. And one exception led to another. First, it was just one day in a week. Then it was just once a day. And then I you know, the exception became the normality again. The exception would have been if I had weighed and measured my food according to the GreySheet. And I put on all my weight. I started using my old techniques again for coping with everything. I started purging again, smoking. It was really no fun. And until I was again so desperate that I thought, okay, what the heck, you know? When I open the Zoom meeting tonight, I will probably see some very familiar faces. And I did that, and I saw familiar faces, and they were happy to see me. I came back after another half year, and I found a sponsor who directly talked to me. Do you need a sponsor? That's the only fellowship where I experienced something like that, I must say. And yeah, and I was very grateful that she asked me. She has been my sponsor since November 2018. And that's my abstinence date. I think I forgot to mention that in the beginning. November 20th, 2018 is my abstinence date. And I'm so, so grateful for that. Yeah. So for next week, I have prepared my breakfast from Monday till Thursday. They are ready in my fridge. And then tonight I will prepare my lunch also for tomorrow. I take my food with me, have a little cooler bag. And I had an experience at a restaurant on Friday. I went to the restaurant for the first time, weighing and measuring alone and with friends, and but not from any food fellowship or so. So they had to put up with me. I had 3 plates because the vegetables were not enough, and I had to let the waiter come again and bring more vegetables. The protein was way too much, but the vegetables not. So yeah, and that was very stressful, but I'm so glad I made it abstinent. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say. I just want to encourage Spanish speaking community to continue the wonderful work that you're doing. And it's really amazing to see your fellowship grow. And thank you for letting me speak.